Hey friend, and welcome to the video. In this video, we're going to be talking about a textured topic. But today's video is going to be like braid out versus twist out on locks. Which one? Which one? Have you ever thought about it? And I have a preference, right? You probably have a preference. Comment down below, what do you think is my preference? Even if this is your first time hopping on my channel and you're like, who is this? I just want to know about braid outs versus twist outs on locks. It's okay, don't worry. Just comment down below which one you think that I prefer most. By the way, this is a twist out. That doesn't mean I'm biased towards twist outs. I'm just saying I just twisted my hair out. And at the end, I will tell you. So let's talk about first braid outs versus twist outs and how they're done, right? The process of a braid out is no matter how many locks you have, or no matter how many or how you've started your locks, you will braid your locks up, and you could do individual braids. You could do multiple locks in one braid. Okay, you don't have to use 3 locks in one braid as in three strands, but you just braid individually all throughout your hair, and then you could keep your braid out in you keep your braids in, for as much as you need, and then you can take your braids out. It's the same with a twist out. You put your twists in, like I put twists in my hair last Tuesday. I wore them for Wednesday through Sunday, and today is Monday. I just took them out a few hours ago. That sometimes makes a difference in how long your braid outs and your twist outs last. I'll get into that. But in general, that's what a braid out is. That's what a twist out is. You just braid it, take it out, twist it, take it out, and wear it in the wavy, curly style. I have done both braid outs and twist outs an equal amount. So I feel like for me, I can give my own personal opinion on which one might be better for you and which is better, just in general. Let's talk about the pros and cons of braid outs. So braid outs is good for a pro is that it's good for volume. If you're doing a braid out, you easily use multiple strands in one braid to either give you more volume or less volume. So for example, if you have larger locks or thicker locks like me, you'd probably use 1 lock for each strand of the braid. So a braid has 3 strands, right? So I would take literally 1, 2, 3 locks, and I would braid them up, and that would make, a braid or whatever. And I'll insert some photos of when I did a braid out on my hair. However, the more locks that you use in one braid, the more voluminous you can make your braid out. So the last time I did a braid out, I actually did my braids with two locks, making 1 strand. So that means in each braid I had 6 locks. Back then I had an even number of locks. I had 68. Now I have 69 locks because I didn't pull it, but I have a new baby lock. And I had recently combined 2 locks into 1. I did this a long time ago, that's why it's a Congo. And the lock was so big that my edges kept peeking out of the lock. So I just decided to make another lock with my edges. That's why it is so small. So my hair did not break off here. My edges just wanted to be free. So I made it into a lock. I have 69 locks. With thicker locks, an advantage and a con of braid outs is that you can easily make your braid outs more voluminous and give you more volume instead of less volume by changing the amount of locks that you have in each braid. And another pro of braid outs is that they can take a lot less longer to install than twist outs. Because twist outs typically you have less strands of locks in a twist, you only have 2 strands of locks that you're twisting up in a twist versus 3 strands or more in a braid, then you can get more hair into the style that you're getting into, which means you don't have to work for that long. So you can condense your time that your hair is being worked on if you're doing a braid. Because of this pro, a con, now let's get into the cons. A con of braiding out is that if you plan on sleeping with your braids in overnight, which most people do, and I would recommend at least for one night so that you can kind of know that your hair, when you braid it out and when you take it out, your curls in your hair are going to last a lot longer from the braids because you slept in it overnight and it got to set. When you sleep on them, they might be a little bit more uncomfortable to sleep on just because braids can often be harder than twists. Twists are more soft and braids are really chunky. They're a lot more chunky than twists. So sleeping on braids is could be a little bit more hard, and it could possibly, depending on who's doing your hair, could possibly cause more tension on your scalp than twist outs or twists. That being said, when you do braids, and if you want to, for example, leave your braids in your hair and rock the braids as a style with your locks for a couple of days, you might have a bit of a chunkier look than if you're rocking twists. And I'll insert some pictures of my braids versus my twists in this video, right? Like, braids are a lot more chunky. You may not be able to style them as good as you can with twists, and they're not as versatile if you want to wear them a couple days. So now let's talk all about twists or twist outs, and the pros and cons of twist outs. So some pros is that, again, this can vary based upon your hair density, which could have a lot to do with how many locks are in your head of hair. And it could have a lot to do with your size of locks and your length of locks. However, a pro of twists is that they, when you twist them out, could be a lot more defined than braid outs. So when you look at my comparison, my twist outs are a lot more, twists are a lot more wavy. You get like a very consistent pattern in my twist, and you can tell that, I twisted it. Some curls in the back of my hair are a little tighter because the locks are smaller than in the front of my hair, and that's kind of also how my natural hair pattern is. So this will differ from person to person based upon your hair type or your curl pattern or whatnot. But in general, because you use less strands of locks, only 2 in a twist, then the twists are usually more defined. Now, you could potentially use more locks in one twist. However, for me, that would be more difficult because, again, my locks are thicker than the average lock size, an average. If your locks are thinner than the average lock size or thinner than mine, and you have a lot of locks on your head, like maybe you have micro locks and somewhere in between 150 locks and like 100 locks, you might want to use multiple strands of locks to do one twist. And water. That might be an advantage because maybe your twist out doesn't take as long as mine to install. But if you do only use 2 strands in your 2-strand twist, your locks can come out super defined, and that's definitely a pro. Because another pro is that twist outs can often last longer than braid outs. The definition of the curl is often more defined, which means it can last longer despite using the same products. I use the same products every single time I do my braid outs versus my twist outs, and I can confidently say that my twist outs last longer, especially because most of the time I live in a humid climate. So if you live in humidity and after a couple of days your hair is going to drop, twist outs might be the best way to go for you. When you do twists and when you leave them in for a couple days, you can style them easier than braids because twists, with locks are usually a lot less chunky and bulky than braids with locks. So I usually can style my twists a lot easier than braids. When you sleep at night, you know, it can be an easier sleep because it's less chunky, less bulky, and it's usually more comfortable with twists in your hair overnight. Because twist outs are obviously, evidently, a lot more defined, and they support doing a retwist a lot better than braid outs, because with braids, with installing them, you have to retwist at the scalp if you're retwisting, then somehow put your braids into your locks. And so if you are retwisting, it's a lot more difficult to get all of your retwisted sections to go in the same direction when you're then going to braid them together, versus when you're twisting your hair together. The retwist is going to be easier because all you have to do is then, after you retwist, twist your locks into each other. If you're a loctician or if you do your own hair, you'll understand that, but that's actually another pro for twist outs. Now, getting into the cons, again, because your twists require only 2 strands instead of 3 with braids, when you're doing 2 strands, it's going to take longer to install your twists. You might use a little bit more arm strength when you're installing them. I know I do. So that could be a con for some people just because of the time that it takes to style your hair. And the resources. I mean, hello, the rubber bands, they get kind of annoying, especially if you do have more locks than me. Of course, I have 68 locks. So my locks are thicker than normal, so I have less locks than the average head of locks. It's going to take more time if you're doing a twist out versus a braid out. So at this point, it's up to you to decide, and then I will tell you my verdict. But personally, I think that if you like to have more defined curls, if you like to have, if you don't mind having a little less volume, but especially if you have more traditional locks and you like a more polished, groomed look and a consistent curl pattern in your locks, twist outs might be the way to go for you. They last longer and, you know, they look cooler oftentimes. However, if you often want a little bit more volume, if you want your styling to take less time when you're installing it, then braid outs might be good for you. Now, personally, you probably weren't gonna guess this, but I actually like braid outs better than twist outs. Yes, I know they don't really last as long, right? With braid outs, I get a larger and more body wave, right? With twist outs, my hair is a lot more flat, even though it's more defined. I actually really, really like the look of braid outs more because the curl pattern is more inconsistent, and it just gives my hair more body. I don't know. I just feel like I got more body in my hair with a braid out than twist out. So that's my textured take, hot texture take. Are you team braid out or are you team twist out? Type it below. Let me know. All right, thanks for watching. If you like the video today, then watch this one up here. Appreciate you so much for stopping by, and stop by again and stay a while. Have a good one. Peace.